So my predictions for the year 2025 within Bitcoin. I got a couple here. So the first one, I think, is talking about Ross. I think this is one of the most important parts of the Trump campaign and why it got so many Bitcoiners on board, was that Trump said that he would pardon Ross Ulbricht on day one. And for those who maybe aren't as familiar, Ross Ulbricht was the creator of Silk Road, one of the very early Bitcoin marketplaces that was used for anything. I know people focus on the illicit drugs that were sold on there, but you could buy anything on there. You could buy anything with Bitcoin. And I'm sure if people think back and see how much Bitcoin they spent on some things back then, they might have some regrets. But at the same time, that's all Bitcoin was worth at the time. And so Ross Ulbricht, he got in trouble. He's in jail. He's been in jail for, I think, 7 or 8 years now, in very solitary confinement, I believe. But one of Trump's big promises that he made, and that got Bitcoiners very excited and on his side, was that he was going to free Ross on day one. So I don't know that he's going to do it day one. Oh, there's a fatty. That's a fat Zap Tuesday. Oh, anonymous Zap too. I wouldn't say my favorite kind. I like a message in there, but I mean, it's just so cool to me that people send in stuff like that without any sort of, anything in return for it. I guess we show up here every day. That's the return for it. But at the same time, we got 10,000 sats that were just zapped to Arnie's wallet anonymously. So thank you. That is fucking awesome. But going back to Ross there, I think that it might not happen on day one, but I do think that it'll happen probably within the first week of Trump's new administration. I think they will make it one of their priorities to free Ross. And I was kind of hoping that Biden admin might do it before that, just to basically give an FU to Trump and say, we're not going to give you the pleasure of doing this. We're going to do it on your behalf. But it looks like we're running out of time for that. But anyways, that's in 20 days from now, or 21 days. And so I do think that he's going to do that on day one or week one, free Ross. So that's my first prediction. My second prediction here, these are all kind of to do with, maybe not. My second prediction, I think, is probably the boldest one. And that is, I think that 2025 is going to be the year that Bitcoin flips gold in terms of market cap. So if you look at market cap, 1-to-1 with Bitcoin, if they were valued the same by the market, Bitcoin would be at about 900,000 US right now. So, I mean, that kind of gives you an idea of where I think the price is going. I don't think gold's going to fall. I don't think it's going to be a scenario where gold crashes and Bitcoin performs well. I think that Bitcoin is just going to absolutely explode in 2025. And I think that there's a chance, obviously, don't take this to the bank or anything, but I think there's a good chance that gold will flip, or Bitcoin will flip gold by the end of 2025. It just makes so much sense. And I think that the only way that that will happen is if the US starts buying gold or buying Bitcoin. If the US starts selling gold for Bitcoin, it'll happen pretty fast. But even if the US takes their 200,000 stolen coins, seized coins, adds it to the treasury, and they start making some purchases through selling gold or otherwise, I think that that's going to be the catalyst to flip gold, market cap wise. My next prediction here for 2025 is I do think that we just kind of talked about the US government. I think that's going to be the big hinge of 2025, is what the US government does fairly quickly. And so I think that the US is actually going to either merge with the Federal Reserve. Why is it so hard to say? I hate those words. I think the US Treasury is either going to merge with the Federal Reserve, or the US Treasury is going to start buying Bitcoin, and they're going to create a new US dollar that's backed by the Treasury instead of the Federal Reserve. I think it's going to happen in 2025. And I really think that all of this stuff, I know it sounds kind of insane. It sounds crazy. But I do think that if this is going to work for the US, and I think that, say what you want about Trump, but he is a very, very intelligent guy in terms of how markets work, how supply and demand works, everything. He's a master of that kind of thing. He's built his whole life around it before he became a politician. And so I think that Trump understands the importance of time with this, and I don't think he's going to dick around with it. So I think that he's either going to merge the Treasury and the Fed, which I think might be a little bit harder to do, but I don't know the ins and outs of it all. I don't pretend to. Or the US Treasury is going to issue a new dollar that's backed by energy, Bitcoin mostly, and we're going to have two separate dollars for a while. Might happen 2025 or 2026, but I really do believe that Trump is going to act pretty quick with this whole thing. And my last prediction here, and this is kind of along the same lines as all of that, is I think that they're going to eliminate the capital gains on Bitcoin. I think that's going to happen in 2025 in the US. And so just keep that in mind. I mean, this is just my prediction here. Obviously, this is not any sort of advice or based on anything. I just think that if this is all going to happen, it's going to happen fast. It has to. And so the reason why I think that the US is going to eliminate capital gains on Bitcoin is not so much the benefit of the citizen. I mean, that's part of it, obviously, if you're a Bitcoiner. And if you look towards like a country like Czech Republic, I think it's called Czech Republic, Prague, wherever that is from. I think it's still called Czech. But they announced this year that they were going to eliminate capital gains on Bitcoin if you've been holding for 3 years. And I think the US could implement something similar, or they might just say no more capital gains on Bitcoin. And again, I don't know if this is going to be directly for citizens. Governments don't usually operate that way, even the friendliest governments. But I think it's all going to tie into the US government, BlackRock's, the NYDIGs, the MicroStrategies, realizing how scarce Bitcoin is. And I really believe that if they implemented the no capital gains on Bitcoin, that would entice or allow more people to sell their Bitcoin. And whatever Bitcoin we sell is going to flow into that vacuum. The government, the big corporations, the big hedge funds, that's all going to go into their pocket, into their wallets. And so I think that they're going to use that as one of their strategies to get people to sell their Bitcoin. Because I really believe that they're going to have a hard time doing that just in general. But if they're going to say, hey, you got to pay capital gains on sale of your Bitcoin, I think that people are going to hesitate, especially after everything we've seen in the last couple of years, right? Because if you think about it from a Bitcoiner's perspective, why would I sell my Bitcoin today and pay a capital gain on it when I could just wait this thing out? We don't know what's going to happen. There's a new administration, very friendly to Bitcoin, very friendly to crypto. And so why would I rush and sell my Bitcoin, trigger a capital gain, when I can just kind of wait this thing out and see what happens with it? So I do think it'll be firms like BlackRock, Fidelity, the NYDIGs, the people who want the average person to sell their Bitcoin. They need to make it very easy for that to happen. And without any friction there, if you eliminate capital gains on Bitcoin, that allows people to, I wouldn't say it entices people, but people are much more likely to sell their Bitcoin if they don't have to pay any tax on it. And that's what they want. They want you to sell your Bitcoin. And I really believe that if they came out and said no more capital gains on Bitcoin, people would see it as like a nice thing that they're doing. And they'd be like, okay, well, I'll sell some of my Bitcoin. But that's going to them and it's never coming back to you. It's never coming back to the average person. So just keep that in mind. Even if they come out with these, laws and regulations saying no tax on Bitcoin, that doesn't mean you just have to sell it. I mean, it does. It's better for sure. But I mean, you're still looking at your KYC Bitcoin and your non-KYC Bitcoin. And it's the KYC Bitcoin that you're going to have to worry about this kind of stuff with lending, with paying tax on, with all this kind of stuff. If you got non-KYC Bitcoin, you really don't care if there's capital gains, if there's lending on Bitcoin, because you want to keep that out of the system. You want to keep that in your own possession. You want to trade that back and forth with other Bitcoiners in your network. So those are my predictions for 2025. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be fun to look back in a year from now and see how many of those did or did not come true. Hey, we got a zap from Bodie over on Zapstream. Let's go in 2025, 1,000 sats. Thank you, Bodie. My man. Bodie and I have a couple special plans for 2025. We'll just say that. I don't want to give anything away, but we've been talking about a few different plans, and he's going to be part of Bitcoin Citadel now. He's going to be probably the most important piece of it, honestly. And in terms of connecting people, Bitcoiners with advisors, that's going to be Bodie's role for 2025. And we're also, hopefully, if he does it, and this is a call to action for Bodie, but we're going to be starting a new spinoff or a new show on his channel or a new channel. And it's going to be focused on Bitcoin for like baby boomers, where we both come on, he asks questions, we talk about things, and it's going to be kind of geared towards baby boomers, but it's not going to be strictly for them. It's anybody can show up and learn and ask questions and stuff. So we'll see.